We are back, and in theory, Jay Foreman should be on the line.
In theory, I am. Hello.
We can hear you. Awesome. Hello.
Yeah, sorry about the delay before. We were supposed to talk a few minutes ago, but I was accidentally copying CDs, printing bits of paper, and roasting a chicken all at once. But I'm ready now.
And listening to a podcast as well.
And listening to a podcast. You caught me listening to Political Thinking with Nick Robinson interviewing Sadiq Khan. It was a really good one.
So I think we'll get straight into the questions. We were going to just start by mentioning your Disgusting Songs for Revolting Children tour. So that's what you seem to be doing at the moment.
Yes, that's what I'm working on now. So the story is, some years ago, I had a show at the Edinburgh Fringe that was, it wasn't a kids show, but it looked like one because it took place in the Igloo, which is normally used for kids shows in the daytime. But the show was full of swearing. And some parents came along and said, it's a shame that you've got all this swearing in the show because all you have to do is remove it and you've got yourself a really good kids show. I thought, all right, that's not a bad idea. So that's what I then did. And now I'm touring the UK with my children's show.
I think you struck like a really nice sort of area of music where it sort of appeals to all ages. It just sort of works for everybody, the sort of musical comedy that you do.
My theory is there isn't really such thing as a children's show. What there really is a family show because the children, they never come on their own. They always bring their parents with them and they often make up more than half of the audience. So if you're going to give the family a good time, you have to make it something that the whole family can enjoy. And I think the best way of doing that, or at least the way that I've managed to stumble upon doing that, is to write songs that are actually meant for grown-ups. It just so happens they don't contain any sex or drugs or swearing.
It reminds me of, I think there's like lots of kids shows like The Simpsons where there's sort of jokes in there for adults, innuendo and that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I remember I used to love programs that weren't actually designed for me to watch. And, if I was listening to something and there'd be a joke that went over my head, it wouldn't bother me. I wouldn't think, well, that's their fault. I'd think, well, that's my fault. I'm sure I'll get it when I'm older. And, with that in mind, that's how I write my kids shows, making sure that, as long as there's a bit where the grown-ups get bored, I'll make sure there's also a bit where the kids get bored a few minutes later.
Back to about your tour. Has your tour been to Manchester yet?
Yes, I did a date in the Lowry Centre in Salford. Although this is contentious. If I've been to Salford, do Manchester purists say that I've not been to Manchester?
I would say you've been to Manchester, but
I'm definitely not a Manchester purist. I don't feel like I'm the best person to judge.
Manchester then, if that counts. But yeah, I've done Salford a couple of times.
You should come to Manchester proper. We've got Manchester Academy, which is joined onto the studio we're in now. We'd love to have you.
The actual Manchester Academy. I don't think. I tend to do venues that have fewer than 300 seats.
That's quite a nice size.
Yeah, the thing is, I've done occasionally in my career, I'm sounding like a very old man, but, I have occasionally done venues that are, enormous, and they're actually not as much fun. Because when you're doing a show like mine, there's a lot of interaction with the audience. There's a lot of pointing at the people who are sat watching you, and, you need to be able to see them and interact with them all. And if you have more than 400 people, then it becomes a different show. It's not quite the same.
I wanted to go back to the past now. So in sort of 2005 type time, you started doing open mic nights at the University of York.
Yes, I did. It all started at university. I spent a lot of time on URY, University Radio York. So when I got the request from you guys, it brought back lots of memories of student radio.
So do you like miss some of the things that you did there? Is there anything that you used to do at the open mic nights that you want to maybe pursue in the future?
Well, I'm trying to think what was different about the open mic nights that I used to do in the very, very early days when I started and what I do now. I guess the biggest difference is that in those days, I didn't consider what I was doing to be comedy. I thought I was a folk musician. So I used to sit on a stool and I wouldn't have a guitar strap. I'd have the guitar on my knees and I'd do very, very little speaking between the songs. It would just be song, 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 and then I'd leave the stage all embarrassed. But very, very slowly, gradually, what's changed is I now realize that what I'm doing is actually closer to stand-up than folk music. And so I've had to develop little bits of routines between the songs and I've had to speak, which is even now, I still find it a bit scary. But I think that's the biggest difference between the old gigs and the current gigs.
Even like we just played your Every Tube Station song and the start of that, I guess you might not expect it to go into a song and then it slowly builds up the pace and then goes in.
That song was written for, and incidentally, it was the Edinburgh show that people told me looked like a kid show. That song was in there, and it was part of a routine where the audience is meant to think that I'm just listing as many tube stations as I can remember, and then by stealth, it creeps in and it turns into a song, and then the audience quickly realize, oh, he's going to do all of them. But the reason that the intro is spoken word is because in the show that was me just saying a list out loud.
Back in 2008, your first YouTube video, which was stealing food, which I think is one of the funniest videos ever, you have
thank you very much.
You have a MySpace link in the description.
Oh yeah, well that's because 2008. I mean, I've started saying this many times in the last few minutes, but in those days, MySpace was where you had to have a presence on the internet if you wanted to be a performer on this thing called the internet. You had to have a MySpace, and it's still there, I think. I mean, my songs have all been deleted, but I'm still friends on MySpace with Tom from MySpace.
That's pretty cool.
Do you think YouTube has changed much since your first video?
Yes, enormously. When I first uploaded something to YouTube, YouTube was simply a website where you would go to, share videos without needing to download Flash Player or choose whether it's Real Media or Windows Media. It was just, there wasn't really such thing in those days as a YouTube channel. If you found a video on YouTube in 2006 or thereabouts, you wouldn't then go looking to see what has this person uploaded as well. However, what you get now is people have become fans of YouTube channels, and people binge on stuff that people upload to their channel. And the biggest change, I think, is that it's mostly people talking about themselves. It's people shooting videos, sat at the end of their bed, asking the audience to like, share, and subscribe. Whereas in my day, the first, YouTube videos that I used to watch was weird stuff that was on TV. And it was very short clips that was often, I used to watch short, funny clips to share with my friends. But nowadays, people watch YouTube as a pastime. You can spend a whole evening binging on someone's YouTube channel. And that's something that I don't think existed 10 years ago.
We're going to play one of your songs now. I do actually have Stealing Food for later in the show, but I'm not going to play that now because we have a quiz coming up, and one of the questions is about that, so I don't want to give anything away.
Oh, okay.
We're going to start with a song that you did with Beck Hill, My Name is Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a funny one. So Beck came to me with that idea. So what usually happens when Beck Hill and I do collaborations, I'll come up with a song, and then if I decide that Beck Hill will make it better with her amazing pop-up animation flip chart things that she does, I will ask her, and then she'll turn it into one of her animated flip chart things. However, this one, the Elon Musk song, this is the only time where she came to me with a song that she'd basically half written, and my job was to sort of make it rhyme and scan and give it some chords. But this is largely a creation of Beck Hill's, but lots of fun to do.
Well, let's have a listen, and we'll catch you after the song.
Bye.
My name. I think that was the first time you've heard that, Previn.
Yeah, and it's really, really funny.
You were just giggling every time there was a line, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's good to know. That means we've done our job. All credit should go to Beck Hill, who made the video to that song. If you're near a computer, I highly recommend going to Beck Hill's YouTube channel and searching for that Elon Musk video. And in fact, all of her videos, they're all very, very funny. Some of them I've done the soundtracks for.
So how did you two meet? How did it get started?
We met on the comedy circuit, so we just used to run into each other doing gigs. And one time, I can't remember which way round it was, whether I said to her, would you like to do a flip chart for my song? Or whether she said to me, would you like me to do a flip chart for your song? But the first one we did was my song Dinosaurs.
Yeah, I've seen that one. That's really nice.
Actually, I remember now. It's all coming back to me. So it was going to be just a standalone song that I was going to perform at gigs, but it never went down that well until I'm pretty sure it was Beck who came to me and said, can I do a flip chart for it? And now it has a reason to exist. And now if I ever do a kids gig and Beck is there as well, we will do a duet. We'll do the Dinosaur song where she does the flip chart and I do the singing.
Have you ever had a go at doing the flip chart yourself? It looks quite fun with all of the little gizmos she sets up.
I actually wouldn't agree that it looks fun to make. I think she does a fantastic job and they are amazing and they're very funny. But the amount of work that has to go into those, and the amount, Beck can do it because she came up with all the ideas herself, and it's never occurred to me in the slightest to try and do flip charts. In fact, if anyone does try, people will watch and say, well, that's Beck Hill's thing. Beck Hill invented that.
Yeah, no, I more meant just like actually using the sort of, like when you're recording the video, using the like air pipes and all of the stuff she sets up to use it. But yeah, I think she's sort of turned it into her own craft now. She's got sort of the little sort of elements that she can use to create the charts.
Exactly.
And that's really cool.
I mean, even if she didn't literally invent the flip chart, I think it's more than fair to say that Beck Hill has the monopoly on using flip charts for comedy in that particular style.
If you're up for it, I think we're going to try a little sort of trivia game now. We don't have a fancy jingle for it, but something like, how well does Jay Foreman know Jay Foreman?
Would you like me to provide a fancy jingle? I've got my guitar here just in case.
Oh, that would be awesome. Go for it.
Okay. It's a quiz. There. That was the jingle from Run the Risk from Children's BBC in the 90s, for those of you playing at home.
So we've got a little bed here and some sort of sound effects to play if you get the answer right or wrong. You're not going to hear those on your end, so it's going to sound like a much more serious quiz for you.
Well, in that case, could you, for my benefit, if I get an answer right, could you sort of say ba-ding, and if I get it wrong, say, like, so I can hear?
Yeah, I'll try that, yeah.
Yeah, I'll delegate that responsibility to Previn.
Thank you.
So, in your Every Tube Station song, there's a scene where you're sat on the tube and reading a tube map. But can you name the station that you're going by?
Oh, God. The only reason I know the answer to this is because someone sent me a comment on YouTube asking, is that West Hampstead you were going through? And the answer was yes. So it's West Hampstead.
That's actually not the one I've got.
What?
I've got Kennington.
Oh, that bit. Oh, yeah. Oh, I've just realised I actually go through several stations in that video. Yeah, okay, fine. Kennington. Fine, you can have that one.
Okay, the second question, the one that was holding me back from playing Stealing Food. At the end of the song, you end with a list of food-related crimes, like pinching the peanuts, picking up the penguins. I like the references there, and some of them are like the marketing slogans and things.
Yes, I used a real thesaurus for that verse.
My question is can you name 3 more?
Or can I name words for to steal that I did not use in the song?
No, ones that you did use in the song. You've got to try and remember.
Oh, well, can you imagine the scandal if I got the answer to this question wrong? Given I sing this song in my live show.
You still do this song then?
I do still play this song. I was playing it only this afternoon. I'm going to go with Volley les vol-au-vent, lift the lurpak, jack the Jaffa cakes, pick up penguins. Do you know what? Actually, come to think of it, I don't know it as well as I thought I did. You know how, like, when someone asks what letter comes after S in the alphabet and you have to sing the whole song to work it out? It's like that with my lyrics. I have to sing the whole thing in order for the muscle memory to kick in.
I actually had to look up, is it vol-au-vent?
Volley les vol-au-vent.
Okay, yeah.
Steal the vol-au-vents.
So I was trying to, like, the captioning on YouTube really wasn't working. So I was trying to sort of interpret it in French and then copy it across.
That's my fault. I never got round to doing the proper subtitles for that video, so it means that we're at the mercy of YouTube's auto subtitle, which is often hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen Rhett and Link's YouTube videos that they do, where they sort of run a video through the subtitling multiple times and basically see what sketch comes out at the end.
Oh, wow. That sounds funny.
Last question. In your Mapmen videos, you have a set that you use quite often, and there's a book standing upright in the background with its title clearly visible. Can you name it?
Does it say VAT receipts?
That's not the one I'm thinking of.
Oh, I don't know. I'm supposed to know this because I edited that series and I was staring at that backdrop for hours and hours every day. But no, I can't remember. What's the answer?
It's Why We Build by Rowan Moore.
Oh, yeah. So it is. That's ringing a bell now. Have you read it?
I have not read that book. It looks kind of interesting.
I haven't read it either. It's not mine. I think Mark took it to the to the filming day.
Back to the questions then.
Yes.
So we've spoken about your open mic nights and then getting into YouTube. In 2010, you won an award for a film you did about the general election called The General Election Explained. Do you have anything interesting to share about that? Is that something you want to do more of in the future?
Well, this was, again, I keep saying this, but this was a long time ago. A production company came to me and they said, we've seen some of your stuff on YouTube and we'd like you to present a documentary about politics that's going to go into secondary schools. And I thought, that sounds fantastic. However, I didn't get a chance to do any of the writing. I basically just sort of turned up for work and read from an auto cue. And I was a little annoyed that I wasn't given a chance in that film to be passionate and to say what I really thought and to, make jokes that I would be able to get away with if it was my own YouTube channel. But of course it was for schools. And so it had to be extremely neutral and sanitized and safe. And it inspired me to then team up with some friends of mine and create our very own series that was like that, but, a bit more opinionated, called Politics Unboringed. And that became a thing I did for years.
Which is a great series. I really like it.
Thank you. I mean, so what it is, if it weren't for this extremely sanitized and safe documentary for schools, I never would have ended up making the thing that I was actually quite passionate about.
I was looking at some of the camera shots where they're standing from a background and like watching you walk past a fence, and I was thinking they must be quite funny to film when you've got sort of a camera guy hiding somewhere and you're just walking as if you kind of don't notice the camera.
Yeah, they were quite professional, the guys that did it. And that was actually the great thing about making those videos, is that I could rely on some proper grown-ups to do the filming and the editing and the directing. Whereas when I'm making stuff on my own or just with friends of mine, then we have to worry about everything. And, years ago, we didn't really know what we were doing. So it was very refreshing to just sort of turn up for a job and say my lines and go home.
I guess what you lose out on, like you said, is the creativity and having the more control over it.
Yeah, but I'm very glad that I've done it both ways because I can see the pros and cons of both.
Yeah.
In 2016, you started your series Mapman. How did you and Mark meet?
Well, Mark Cooper-Jones and I met on the comedy circuit in exactly the same circumstances as how I met Beck Hill. He was a stand-up comedian, and he was also a member of a sketch group that I really liked called Wit Tank. And he and I were aware of each other's work because we used to run into each other at gigs. And the thing that Mark and I had in common was we were both big geography geeks. He actually had several shows at the Edinburgh Fringe based on the fact that he was also a geography teacher. So for a short time, we had the same agent. And she suggested that he and I team up to do a show together at the Edinburgh Fringe. And so we had a meeting and we discussed doing a thing together. It was going to be an Edinburgh show, but then we decided, let's make some videos online. And Mark came up with the idea of calling it Map Men, and that's how it happened.
Did you do much geography in your sort of formal education, or is it just something you've always been interested in?
No formal education in geography whatsoever. I didn't even do geography GCSE because when I was 14, 15, I didn't care about geography. But then as I've got older, I've become a bit of a geek about it. So it's good that when Mark and I make Map Men together, at least one of us does have a proper qualification. And Mark can, correct me when my research is bad or, tell me the proper technical term. It's not colouring in, it's shading, as he so often says.
So what's the sort of work process on that like then? Does he sort of come to you with the ideas, or is it a bit of both?
It's a bit of both. So for the writing stage, in theory, we're both supposed to do a bit of everything where we, between us, come up with the ideas for what's this episode going to be about. We do some of the research, then we write it like a bullet point list, and then it gradually turns into a script. I think Mark is much better at coming up with very specific maps. So, for example, he's the one that told me about Mappamundi, which is the extremely old and very inaccurate sort of biblical map that was worth discussing. And he also knew about the area Bir Tawil, this part of Sudan that doesn't belong to anyone. Whereas what I like to come up with is not specific maps, but map ideas in general. So the ideas that I brought forward were trap streets and projections and maps that have big holes in them, like one I found of East Berlin. But in general, in theory, we both do both.
In your North and South Divide video, you did multiple impressive drawings of the UK. Was there a trick there, or was it just a lot of practice of just drawing maps?
That's something I've always been able to do. That's one of
just a party trick.
I can freehand draw the UK, but one of the best things about doing a job like mine, making videos on YouTube, is that if I have a bizarre party trick that I can do, I can actually find an outlet for it. So, for example, freehand drawing the UK, I managed to put that into an episode. And my totally useless trick where I can sing a song where the lyrics are delayed behind the melody by one syllable, I get to do that in my live show. And in one case, I've done it on one of my YouTube videos.
That's honestly one of my favourite things that you do. It's just so impressive to see.
Oh, thank you very much.
Moving forward, you've recently become engaged to Jade Nagy.
Naji, yes, I have.
Naji, I apologise. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And then just the last question before we wrap this up, I think. What does the future hold? You haven't had too many new songs on your YouTube channel. Do you think you'll be doing more of those soon, or are your plans to work on some other series?
Well, it doesn't look very likely that I'll be doing a lot of uploading songs to my YouTube channel, because what everyone has told me at all of the YouTube meetings I go to, whether it's, the YouTube office in the creator space in King's Cross or some agency that I spoke to last week, they all say that people come to a YouTube channel for one thing. And at the moment, my YouTube channel has become the documentaries about geography and politics. So the songs, they're kind of falling away. And what's happened to my career is most people who know me for one thing, they don't know about the other thing. In fact, just this conversation we're having now is the first time in ages that I've met someone who knows about both my YouTube videos and my funny songs career, because they're like two different things. They're like two different people. So the short answer is not really. I don't think there's going to be more songs on my channel, but you never know. I might decide to write more songs. And if I do, they will more than likely go on a different channel, which I've yet to decide whether I'm starting.
I don't know which came first, me watching the songs or me watching like the geography videos and those sorts of videos. I think it just, I really liked your personality and your video style, so then you go sort of hunting for more, and then I must have come across the other and started liking that too.
But all of them are brilliant,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What was that?
Just all of them are brilliant.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. That warms the cockles of my heart.
So I think we're going to end with another song now. This is Stealing Food. We've said a little bit about it. It was one of the first songs you uploaded. Is there anything more you want to add?
Can I do a plug for my YouTube channel?
Absolutely, yeah, go for it.
If you want to check out my stuff, go to YouTube and search my name, which is Jay Foreman, and Jay is Jay, and then Foreman is Foreman. So check me out on there.
And if you go to Jay Foreman's website as well, which you can just find on Google, there's all of his tour dates listed there. If
yes,
some of these songs interest you.
I'm talking to an audience of mostly students at the University of Manchester, but by all means, please do come to one of the children's shows. You're more than welcome. People without kids come to my shows all the time.
Okay, here we go. This is Stealing Food. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome. Nice to meet you. Bye.